Sakimoto Days is a Netflix original series. I was not expecting it to look the way that it did, especially since like this is what we get out of the episode, or at least the preview or the trailer that I saw on Netflix, and I was like, seems a little weird and interesting. But the anime's been way better than I ever would have expected it to be. I thought it was just going to be like a home style, like type of like slice of life anime or something along those lines of like, oh, they're just going to be like working in this small little shop, like just that's about all it is. But then the anime opens up with this like dope scene of this like dude that's just like going through and getting like, I wouldn't say murked, he's murking everybody else with like all these weapons and guns and all these other like crazy things with the samurai. Like he's just dodging, slicing people up, slice after slice. And I was thinking that this was one of those like scenes, where you see it's just like its backstory, it's just like him envisioning this said thing. But you come to realize later in the episode or the series is like he has been the world's best hitman. Like he was the best hitman. Like everybody would fear him. Like he was the most powerful one that ever existed. And everybody feared him. And then he eventually, and maybe this will happen to you, I'm hoping that'll happen to me, is there will just be like this woman that ends up coming into my life, and it's just like, and I'll just be like overdrawn with like, oh my God, she's absolutely gorgeous. And I know I've talked about this before, but this is never something that I necessarily enjoy personally, seeing like these overreaction, like over the top like things. But for some odd reason, I was like, let's just give this episode a try as I do. And this is what ends up happening. He ends up getting fat, has a baby girl. His wife's all happy. Like he's just chilling. Like he's not doing what he was once doing anymore. You get some pretty dope credits as well too. He's just a little chill dude with some hats. You get to see the different people that have different powers within the opening. Pretty sick if you haven't watched it. But this is what I was saying. Like I was just expecting it to be something like this, where they're just like in the shop cleaning, having a good time or whatever it is. He's just relaxing, reading. Here's his old like little disciple that ends up coming in to want to help him. And that's where he ends up like finding him within the very first episode. He ends up coming in, having this whole different conversation. The little kid, which there's this dick that basically comes in and he's like, you know what? I want to beat up this kid for no apparent reason. It's just like, dude, he's a child. Like, sure, he got some ink on your pants, but don't be all upset that the kid got the ink on your white pants. Like, don't wear some white pants. And that's when Sakimoto, the hitman, comes in and he visualizes. At first, I'm just like, dude, this is brutal. Like, he ends up grabbing his and just like jabbing him in the neck with the carotid artery. But you come to find out that it's just within his own mind that he's ends up doing that. And that's where he's just like a pen to the lower jaw, straight through the carotid, carotid. Wow, that was a tough word for me. If you like hearing me make a fool of myself, subscribe to the channel, because why not? It's completely free and a click of a button. So he ends up telling that it's been too long. He's trying to figure out who he is. He ends up not talking, punches him in the face, and it's just like, stop killing people in your mind, because you come to find out later that this guy is a psychic, and he has the psychic powers to be able to defeat Sakimoto, or not necessarily defeat Sakimoto, but he can basically see into the future and hear the thoughts and ideas that are coming to mind. So that's when he's like, stop killing people in your mind. He ends up having a conversation at dinner with him. He does end up getting like telling him to come back because he's like the feared hitman and he wants him back, but he's just enjoying his little cup of noodles as he does. And if you see this sign right here, which I didn't see it on the very first one, but it's no smoking, he ends up doing that. As soon as he starts to smoke, it's like he slices it right in half, and it's like, that speed, fat or not, I can kill you any day, is what he's telling me, which is exactly true. He ends up going through, he thinks that he's going to be like doing all these missions for like all these town folk, but he ends up just like cutting down the trees, helping this person feed the baby. He ends up turning one ball into two balls because he has like immense strength, and he's just like, whew, that's great. So he's like, he thinks he's the hitman for the full town, which he isn't. Little kid ends up running away. Come to find out that this guy was actually sent off to kill Sakimoto, even though he's like awesome. And he's just like, yep, so did you kill him? We don't want to kill him, but that's the rule. Is if you leave the gang, you have to kill the people that you end up leaving the gang for, which is a little messed up in my personal take and or opinion. They end up walking around. This little kid ends up finding some like little rock looking thing. I don't know what it is. He doesn't know what it is either. He ends up throwing it on, or he tries to throw it on him, but he doesn't. You get to see him like do the little silencer gun, and that's when I was like, okay, this anime is actually going to be good. Like, there's going to be some fight. I like animes that have like fighting scenes and things like that, or romance. I don't know. Action and romance are like two big things for me. He ends up seeing through him. He has a little jaw, takes out the gun. He spits out a little like jawbreaker or something like that, stops the rifle, like the gun, within that said second, distracts him. They end up going through. He plays little tricks on him. He throws these like little gobstopper jawbreaker things as if they're like actual bullets, ends up punching him in the face, just like nothing. It's just like, what was I thinking? He ends up going through, realizing that he's stronger than he originally was. He asks him for some rice. They end up making him food, and he's like, why are you making me food? Like, what just happened? I don't understand. He thinks that it's going to be poisonous, but it's actually just really, really good food. He ends up eating it. They have a good time, like sharing the moments around the table. And this is something else too. Like, these are the moments that truly matter, at least from what I've been able to gather in my life thus far. Maybe you can gather it too. It's like, yeah, it's great to be able to like watch stuff and do things on your own. I do things on my own all the time. Like, I'm recording this video right now in my apartment by myself, but like you're watching it maybe with your friends or with other people. But like, these are moments that I find very valuable, and why I'm working on starting like a family myself is because you can be retired and you can find other meaning in your life other than just like having to do hitman or work or whatever it may be. Like, there's all these different ways of going about the world that you want to live in. So it's just like, that's why he quit, is because he wants to have like, he wants to protect the little moments of his everyday life, and that's why he's quit. And they end up going through the shop, and he ends up talking to him. It's just like, thank you for dinner. And she's like, thank you, please come again. I thought Sakamoto was never going to talk within this episode, or within the series, but you do find out later that he does actually have the ability to talk. So thank you, Mr. Sakamoto. He ends up like looking back. He knows something that we don't necessarily know. At least that's what you find out a little bit later, which I'll tell you that here in a second. But like, you find out something that he doesn't necessarily know. He ends up going back into the gang place, and it's just like, I can't kill Sakamoto. I'd rather kill myself if that's the case. But he's just like, since he's a psychic, it's just like, you die and I'll let Sakamoto live. She's like, dumbass. And if I'd ever let that happen, just die, you idiot. And she's like, I heard that. And she's like, huh, I couldn't expect much more from you. And did you just read my mind and bring it on? Then Sakamoto's listening to something you don't necessarily know what it is, but you kind of do. He ends up having this like small little secret key slot that he's able to slide his key into that transforms the shop into his like old military like headquarters type of thing, which, dude, this is just sick. Like, this is dope. Like, I always love movies and scenes like this. I always wish that I could have something like this in my house. Maybe you could do as well. Let me know down in the comment section down below. It's like, having something that like turns into something else is always really fascinated me, and maybe that's what we end up trying to do right here. He's able to read the minds of everybody else around him. That's how he's able to dodge the bullets, but he ends up having one last magazine left, which I really liked how they actually brought this up. Is like, this is my last mag, because I thought it was just going to be like an endless supply of like, oh, he just has magazine after magazine after magazine after magazine. Come to find out that that's not necessarily the case any longer. Sakamoto ends up coming in, helping him out by tasing two of the other people as soon as he's about to get shot, because he thinks that it's the end of the road. And he's just like, nope. And he grabs the chopsticks, grabs the bullets somehow, which is pretty damn impressive how he just like grabs those. He's just like, nope, yep, screw you guys. I got these bullets. I'm too fast for you. Throws them both on the ground. Ends up taking out a lot of the people with like pens as well too. Stops the bullets. Ends up chucking them at the people. Ends up just defeating like this whole like gang within like with his own two hands. Ends up slicing the gun in half, ripping it apart with his own like bare hands. Slices the dude. Dude ends up losing about like 4 teeth or so. Ends up waiting for the other people. They tell him to take him out. Slices the gun. That's where it is. Cuts them up. Ends up falling down. This is insane. This is Sakamoto. Like, what's going on? And that's where it's just like, how'd you know? And he ends up cocking the gun. Shows him that there's a bug in it. Oh, is this a bug? Did you do that when I was passed out? No matter. Thank you. Here's an apron. I'll pay extra. Tells him that that's what they end up doing, and then what ends up happening is they just end up coming back to the ramen shop. He's a little confused right here. He's like, how the fuck, like, what? How did I get here? But he ended up getting there. He tells him not to eat next to him, but he's like, I'm just going to do it. We don't have much left. They end up having a call. Little girl ends up loving him. He ends up telling the granny, exactly, here you go, ma'am. How do you know? And this is just what I was looking for. And that's where like the psychic power ends up coming in, and the little Grammy, like kids says like he really is psychic, which I'm also psychic as well too. I can see things before they happen, even if you don't know that, but it's true. Like, I hear it and then I see it, because we're all psychics at the end of the day. If you're able to understand the truth within yourself, just keep that in mind. So come to think of it, well, I don't even know yet, but it beat my last job for sure. It's just like, what was my last job? And it's just like, tell him and I'll kill you is what Sakamoto said. He looks a little dumb. He's like, let's just say I was a cleaner. And then I'm thinking welcoming, and then you have the credits roll. So that was episode 1. Right now, there's 2 episodes out on Netflix, I believe, right now. I'm going to do the second episode for tomorrow as well. So if you want to see more about that, or if you have any other insights or knowledge, but I was just impressed with this overall. I really enjoyed how they took a little bit of a different approach to like the little slice of life. Like, it's still showing the action, like gangster type of stuff that I enjoy. Also just showing that like just because you're out of the game doesn't necessarily mean that you're out of the game. Like, just because you haven't been doing it for a couple of years because you retired and you got fat or you didn't do something for a little while doesn't mean that you still don't have that skill. I look at it and I was reminded when I was watching this, it's kind of like riding a bike. Like, you're always a hitman, you're always a biker, you're always a salesman, you're always a creator, you're always a communicator, you're always confident. Even if you do take some time off, whatever it may be, like, you are always still that person. It's just a matter of once you get into that right element, then that something just clicks and you switch into gear and then you're able to proceed further from there. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you made it to the end of the video, click that subscribe button if you aren't already. I do have merch down below in the description. You can always check that out, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video. So talk soon. Thanks for watching.